probably the most important election in Poland since 1989. And it's not only my opinion, because if we look at numbers, I mean, how many Polish citizens actually participated in this election, actually voted, this is absolutely a record. I mean, in 1989 was more than 60%. Now it was 74. Absolutely record in the history of independent Poland. So absolutely, it was the most important election. Another thing why it was so important, I think that two more reasons. One reason, it's mobilization, extraordinary mobilization of many social groups and many age groups that so far have not been very involved in political processes. First of all, it regards young people. Young people, I mean people from 18 to 29. They went to vote. 68%, if I remember well. This is the, if I'm sure, this is the second time in the history of Polish elections when the youngest group of voters was larger than the oldest one, people 60 plus. Because in this group, 60 plus, it was probably 67%, and 68% when it comes to young people. This is really something new, because so far young people they participated in elections, you know, at the level of 20%, 20 something. So this is really important. And another thing is that Polish people, well, they showed that it's time. This is time for a change. For a change. It means that the ruling party, Prawo i Sprawiedliwość, Law and Justice, was not able for 8 last years to convince Polish people that this is a good vision and this vision should be continued. The vision of the state, the vision of the nation, society, etc. So probably these are the main conclusions.
Jakub.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We start with Jakub not because he is in Zoom, not only because of this, because he has almost always been there in Poland. He knows what it happens from inside. His optics in this case is, let's say, is more precise than Ukrainian. But again, I do think that one of our common tasks that we do have during elections and at the post-electoral period, just to keep the dynamics, retain the dynamics of the relations that was built during the context of Poland and Ukraine after February 24th, 2022, if I'm not mistaken. Well, even considering the factor of grain, Ukrainian grain, because in my opinion, and my colleagues may actually correct me or object, I think Polish-Ukrainian relations today are at the peak level since 1991. These are peaking when Poland recognized our independence. Stanislav, in your opinion, what is the key result of the elections, please? Yes, the sound works perfectly. Thank you all. First of all, I'd like to say, I'd like to welcome you all and express gratitude for the invitation. This is really an important discussion. Parliamentary elections in Poland. We have to understand that a lot depends on Poland when it comes to Ukraine, namely in the context of struggling in this full-scale war as well of Russia against us. So I want to congratulate, of course, Poland and Polish citizens. The elections were held and you already managed to process 100% of the votes from the poll stations, and democratic processes are viable in Poland. We can see it. And again, it confirms and proves that this Central European country, it remains the country which is, let's say, an exemplary for the region, a flagship of the region, regardless of the problems and regardless of how strong was the power that we had there for so many years. But still, a chance is given to other political powers and political groups to get some leverage to handle the country, to govern the country. For me, I guess, what is the most important thing? Currently, Poland managed to overcome this harsh stage. I do split this stage into a couple parts. Of course, the pre-election stage, pre-election period, within the last, let's say, weeks, we've seen these harsh debates with candidates, but I just want to tell you, be very frank, that the pre-election campaign started earlier. On August 8th, actually, it officially was launched, and we saw the relations with Ukraine. We even felt that. We'll talk about that as well today. We all had that feeling. So, second stage was the election itself, October 15th. This day lasted like a week, I guess. That was a feeling. Because when the first information arrived and the statistics and the dynamics of the voting, how actually it took place, and all the comments from the media who were analyzing how Polish are voting inside the country and, of course, abroad. Well, this is a very important stage. And now we have Poland coming to the third stage, the coalition process, coalition building process, let's say, when those political groups coming to the parliament shall actually build certain unions to have a chance later to shape the government. Those who won't be able will just shift to opposition. We'll talk about that as well. So, in fact, we can say that the biggest achievement is that this process is ongoing in a democratic manner. This is the most important thing. Of course, if we take the results, I can say that. Of course, they are the winners. There was nothing surprising. Maybe some doubts were about the percentage they would get. Maybe we expected, if we take like those polls that we had within the last weeks for the Civic Coalition, it went up a little bit, but Law and Justice did not get that number. They actually dreamed of, let's say, something they expressed, and they did everything to get a chance to get as many mandates in the parliament, in the new convocation. I was surprised with the figures. Confederation of Freedom and Independence, for that party, I was surprised with their figures. Their results. Within, according to so many polls that we had even in summer, they even took like the third place. Sometimes even there was like 15% at that level. So this decline up to fifth place, 7%, almost twice. This is like very surprising, and it was a surprising thing for me. The Confederation tried to take as many votes as it could from the peace, but we can still see that they didn't manage to do it. And respectively, it's quite turbulent right now and very intense in the HQ, and they're trying to find someone to blame. Well, we may talk about that as well, but I will not just stress on this now. We can definitely see that there were certain surprising things, some unexpected stuff, but the matrix of results, generally, that we see, it corresponds to the reality. The only thing is that, of course, it will be the most intriguing thing, like who will shape the majority. that will later lead the government of the Republic of Poland, and we can actually speak of some attitudes and moods, what shapes these blocks may have, but I do think that still we may observe some interesting news and hear something interesting from the coalition building process, but we're observing and we will analyze, of course, the future processes in the post-election period. Thank you, Stanislav. Thank you so much. Anatoly, how do you see that? What is, let's say, we are like tasting this bun of Polish elections. What raisins are there in the bun? Okay, can you tell us? Okay, first of all, the key result is that we had elections taking place at a proper level, despite that before the elections the struggle was really harsh and hot and so many allegations there were, and the parties and they were trying to accuse each other for some incorrect methods used, but there were some significant remarks or something that could make the results doubtful. Well, I can't say these were. So when it comes to the results itself, even before the elections, many people in Poland and abroad in Europe spoke that they said that these elections may be the decisive ones for the European, let's say, for the European situation. Bulgarian, by the way, political expert Ivan Krastev mentioned this. This could be a pivot point. Yes, we had these ideas from two sides, and sometimes it was quite contradictory with the statements. How would this affect the European processes? We, of course, would see later, because 100% that we can expect to get certain improvement of relations of Warsaw-Brussels line with the European Union, with the European institutions. We can expect that. At the same time, I consider that the political situation in Poland will become, let's say, a little bit more vibrant and complicated for our expert community, in the sense that we'll have more work, let's say, because Polish internal politics and political processes, these will be more voluminous, let's say, get some extra dimensions, because we previously said that the Justice Party had this majority, like was the mono government basically, but now, if we take peace shaping to political powers, but if we talk right now about establishment of, it's highly likely, establishment of the parliamentary majority and shaping the parliamentary majority out of three powers. So the platform, Ulica, and the third one. So inside of these parties we have some more. Therefore, eventually we'll get approximately 15 parties represented in the parliament. Yeah, so it's highly likely that these parties will require their interests to be presented not just at the parliament, but in the government, respectively the quotas and, of course, the positions. This will be a complicated process, I can say. It would be really hard. Well, sometimes I had this impression, and I'm listening to these estimates and expectations. I thought, like, everything was okay. So we have the opposition that has become the winner. So just we'll use the magic wand, and the situation will radically change. It'll become more pro-European and more modern, innovative. The relations will improve with the European Union, and instantly Ukrainian relations will improve. But as practice shows, it never happens in any country like that. So all these problems and controversies, we'll still have them, especially take into consideration the possible future coalitions. We may even have these opposing parties there, you know. when it comes to ideas and concepts. The Greens, let's say, and you know, the villagers, the Greens were telling villagers that their policy is not environmentally friendly and so on. So it will still be there, it will remain. And the new government, if this government is established and shaped and built around the civic platform and led by Tusk, well, then all these problems will have to solve it. Poland will have to solve it. This is my preliminary, let's say, evaluation. Thank you so much, truly. In Polish political process, we have this coalition factor, as we call it. It will be really powerful. It will be quite a bright one in this environment, and it would never be as easy as it works in theory, because the interest, especially the parliamentary elections, open this launch this long political season. Then we have the local elections to European Parliament, and then we have the presidential one, yeah? And nobody today even will give a 100% of guarantee that we will not have the early elections in this context. But when I speak of the lessons for Ukraine, I do think that this is the lesson of open party lists that today are stipulated finally by the electoral code, and we in Ukraine, we never had elections taking place with these open lists at the level of parliament, and we have to prepare today for it, because as the process of vote counting shows in Poland, they had more than 10 political parties in the campaign, and the favorites were established instantly. But for the commission, it doesn't matter who are the favorites. And in Ukraine, let's say, it's a different situation still. My next question to Jakub. What is the forecast for future after the Sejm takes an oath, and can we have anything sensational there?
Well, I have to say that I agree to our colleagues, to Stanislav and Anatoliy, because they are right. This process of creating a coalition will be very difficult, because exactly like they said, there are several political parties, and they, of course, they have different visions, different interests, different approaches, different ambitions, etc., etc. So probably this process will be difficult, and Prawo i Sprawiedliwość will do anything to make this process as long as possible, because Prawo i Sprawiedliwość hopes that maybe somehow we'll be able to create to get majority. However, I don't think it's possible. I don't think that Prawo i Sprawiedliwość will be able to build any majority in this parliament. It is for a simple reason. It looks like nobody wants to after many experiences from the past, nobody wants to to join Prawo i Sprawiedliwość anymore. So it will be a long process, and I don't think that it will be maybe even this year. Maybe at Christmas, but maybe by Christmas. Maybe by Christmas we will have a new government, an offer for the new government, but it will take time. But finally, I think that the opposition, I mean, the civic, the Platforma Obywatelska, Lewica, Trzecia Droga, they will form finally the government, but it will take time, and it won't be easy. The political fight, the political struggle is not over. It is not over, and if we listen to many voices from Prawo i Sprawiedliwość, from politicians of Prawo i Sprawiedliwość, we may be sure that this fight will be going on in the coming weeks. It won't be easy, but actually I think that Prawo i Sprawiedliwość will not be able to build a majority. I even think that it may be quite contrary. It is quite possible, in my opinion, that there will be some people, some politicians, especially at local levels, that will try to, to leave Prawo i Sprawiedliwość and to join to join coalition. It's business. It's just business, and it will be probably this way. Of course, I don't want to, and I wouldn't dare to speculate to what level and to what extent such a process may occur, but it's not impossible. So I believe that we have tough weeks or maybe months ahead of us, and not earlier than by Christmas we will know something. But finally, I think that it will be the coalition, Platforma, etc., who will build the next government of Poland. And by the way, if you perhaps, I don't know if we have time now, but you spoke, our colleagues were speaking about Confederacja. And I know that in Ukraine there were many concerns about Confederacja and about the position and the view of Confederacja toward Ukraine. You're absolutely right. I mean, Ukrainian media, Ukrainian experts, Confederacja is extremely anti-Ukrainian. It's even more anti-Ukrainian than you can imagine, because during the election campaign, the voices were quite moderate, in fact. In reality, it's much worse than you think. And maybe you're surprised why Confederacja lost this election. Well, to be honest, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because I remember Mr. Janusz Korwin-Mikke. I remember his different political projects, his different political parties since 1990s. When I was in high school at the beginning of 1990s, it was the same. All political projects of Janusz Korwin-Mikke, who is a very specific and special character, actually he's uncomparable to anyone else. They were always supported massively among young people, among teenagers and young people. And actually it didn't change too much. And every time in the history, Janusz Korwin-Mikke finally, just before the election, turned out to be I don't know how to find a proper word. He's not able to win any election, in short, because all right, people may say that's interesting. Yeah, he's right. But when it comes to the election, to the serious thing, people don't vote for Janusz Korwin-Mikke and his teams, subsequent teams. This is why I'm not surprised with this failure of Confederacja. And I don't think that, by the way, within Confederacja, just like Stanislav said, now they are trying to find who was guilty. And majority of politicians of Confederacja say it was Janusz again. So I'm not surprised with Confederacja. Sorry for this off-topic. Coming back to the main question, I think that it will be a difficult and long process, but finally it will be the coalition that will build the new government. Thank you.
Thank you. Definitely. There is a huge chance that the Christmas season in Poland will be combined with expectation of political miracle. Stanislav, is it true? Yes, I do agree with Jakub that the coalition building process may be delayed. And there are many forecasts that before Christmas, or it may take longer, and we will get the government at the beginning of 2024. Well, we can talk a lot about that, but of course, Law and Justice will try, not even try to grab the power, you know, use this last opportunity. Yes, they recognize that they lost the elections, but just to show their voters that they still want to stay in political process, that of course the local, the European dimension of elections, that they will be there, and that they have to be prepared for presidential elections of 2025. This is important to understand. And I just want to stress here that in Poland, they still have their president, Andrzej Duda, who is related to peace camp, let's say. We have to understand this as well. And they have this hope that despite that they will not have the majority, if, again, the parliament will consist of 3 powers, they will have no constitutional majority. Therefore, there is a chance to negotiate regarding certain initiatives, and this should be understood as well as it is, because when we have the parties who are in opposition, but they have their voice, they still remain like the political power. They still have the impact. If we take Law and Justice in general and their HQ, we know that Jarosław Kaczyński, the leader of peace, in fact takes all the accusations for himself, saying that he didn't work well. He blames himself that they didn't win. But politicians of Law and Justice say that the aggressive campaign is to blame. So many attacks on Donald Tusk, and they concentrated on that hugely. So they try to play with more aggressive electorate than with the moderate one. Let's say we have what we have, and Law and Justice right now is trying to realize what they did wrong, and they are telling right now that they may have some staff shuffling there in the party, and inside the party they need to be prepared for the next political challenges. I think this is the key, understanding that if the opposition takes this, they have to realize in future they should be very cautious with their political activity, because peace will observe and try to use those mistakes which they could do, possibly. So they will try to avoid any early elections, because the situation may change. And if we take the Confederation, in fact, it's an opposition political party, political power, but there were forecasts that it will get a piece of pie, but it didn't happen. Yes, we spoke of Janusz, and with the recent information I received, his colleagues are even they are blaming him for his narratives and threatening him with some processes. They tell that he was dragging them down, and that's why they couldn't get the number of chairs, let's say, which would really be attractive for big political forces. So the Confederation, I guess, will be in opposition, a part of the opposition. I don't think that they will make a union with peace. It doesn't make sense. But some ad hoc supporting of some initiatives, well, it may be possible. Everything will depend on how these political processes will take place in future in Poland. We can see right now that there was another intrigue. The third road block. And they got this golden ticket, as we say. And if we speak of the Lewica and the Civic Platform Union, it was discussed a lot that they have a lot of similar things in their programs, and some ideological basics are similar for them. But well, the third road, there were forecasts that they may join the peace. And then we could have gotten this big coalition, Confederation and peace. like with many votes, but the claims are almost identical to what we had before the elections. By the way, they consider themselves to be like an enormous power, a bloc, but they have to understand, for the elections to take place and for the government to be shaped, they have to become a part of something. They have to be embedded to something. And we have negotiations right now. We will definitely see how this opposition union will look like. And soon it actually may become the governing one. But again, it's not the time to celebrate still, in my opinion. Still a lot of challenges are there, and we will have so many debates. As Yevhen said, Poland has just entered, you know, entered this electoral epoch, as we say, and this line of elections is still there. It's only started. For Polish-Ukrainian relations not to be impacted, it will be a task for any government to maintain the support, because Poland, of course, is a very important partner and ally of Ukraine. And they both understand it, Kyiv and Warsaw. So we have a lot of similarities. We have the same enemy who wants to destroy our countries eventually. Therefore, we'll see a lot of interesting events and things. We'll talk about that a lot. Again, the most important thing is, well, my congrats that elections took place, and I do hope that all these political processes in future will take place in Poland in a civilized manner. Thank you so much. Anatoliy, you have maybe, if it's possible, maybe your unique vision or forecast. Yeah. I don't know if it's unique, but I'll try. Okay. So first of all, well, I'll try to present my observations maybe, and then I'll try to develop a forecast. Well, we still try to go back to that situation before the elections, what results received by the parties and so on. We have a very interesting situation because they say that Law and Justice won the elections. Okay, yeah, they won the elections. Like, they got the majority of votes. And this is quite a powerful result because 3 times in a row getting the top level, it's a serious result. Elections after elections. And they again got the majority of votes. Apart from that, like, how more than 33%, if I'm not mistaken. 35% of votes. This is a powerful result. More than 1/3 of votes, and this party, in any case, will remain an important factor, an important, let's say, power in Polish political life, an important actor, subject, even if it's in opposition. It looks like that. Secondly, speaking of the Confederation, we mentioned that, by the way. Yes, the Confederation got forecasts with higher results, and in summer, like up to 15%, which were expected, but still, these forecasts did not work, but this party managed to grow the capacity comparing to the previous elections, plus 250,000 of votes, more or less. 250,000 of votes is like Lutsk and Rivne both voting, if we take, you know, the number of voters, yeah. By the way, this pre-electoral video of Janusz Korwin-Mikke, he made this video, by the way, where he was threatening voters and intimidating them, saying so many times I was stressing that Poland is not located between the Germany and Russia. It's between Germany and Ukraine. And Ukrainian-German union is something that threatens Poland because these both countries have territorial some territorial issues when it comes to Poland. Yeah, so that's what Janusz was actually giving us narrative. Yeah. Yes. Also, the Confederation, basically, I would not get it out of the list because a lot of young people voted for it, by the way. 2 years ago, Krzysztof Bosak, representative of the Confederation, he had the same rating with Donald Tusk, identical. And the lower anti-rating, the personal one. So it tells a lot about the person. And the Confederation itself is not quite an even structure and homogeneous. They have this nationalist wing and 2 other waves that they have. These are more of pro-liberal, ultra-liberal shade or pattern, we can say. Speaking of the third road, yes, something new in these elections that we had today. We do hope that this party will get a strong position, because in Ukraine we had those stars, bright stars, that went up very fast, took like 2nd place in the list, took 2nd place in Ukrainian parliament, then they lost. They couldn't even reach the barrier later. So we will see if the third road actually keeps this result, keeps certain unity, because let's say I maybe missed that, but I didn't get any clear messages from the third road. Well, they said like everything's gonna be fine. We want everything to be positive and constructive. We want to have good relations. Like no clear political or electoral program. It wasn't that. Maybe I didn't feel it. Maybe I missed something. But like many observers say, and these talks about essence, well, all the parties lacked that. There was no sense of, you know, sense of strong ideology there. I heard this idea, why Law and Justice lost the elections, mostly because they lost 10 votes from the village voters, 10% of the village voters. They didn't vote for peace. So there was no clear message, there was no clear program, like what to do with farming, with village development, and agricultural development. So we have to understand that farming in Poland, it's a big layer, it's a big stratum. It's a huge power, 1,300,000 of farms, of households, even if we multiply it 2-3 times, like how many people are employed in these farms and households. It's quite a lot of people, and they did not feel, evidently, that the narrative, the message. I'll try to forecast, partially, what will it lead to? What can we have in the future? Well, before the elections in Poland, we had this strong discussion that was started. Maybe it wasn't that well noticed here in Ukraine, but there were discussions on the situation, internal situations in the European Union, and the wrong place of Poland in that process. I mean, and also in the EU, as a member of the EU. And right now, European Union is standing on the brink of serious transformations. The proposals are drafted to amend 260 amendments to the EU agreement, like to almost 100 of chapters of that document, and it works more for centralization of European Union, for that treaty. As Ursula von der Leyen, the head of the European Commission, she said, how do I see the future of Poland, of my descendants? Not in the Union of member states, of nations, but in European Union as a federation, similar to the US, similar to Switzerland, or similar to Germany. And these changes are directed to that, to enforce centralization, to finally get this qualified voting system, and in so many sectors, the the rule of consensus will be dysfunctional, will not work. So it's quite differently perceived in Poland. Someone thinks it's a positive thing because it will simplify communication between Warsaw, Paris, Brussels, and so on. But someone are absolutely against that because this was the key narrative of Law and Justice. Because this is perceived as a threat for the national sovereignty, that the Poland will not be later able to shape its policy in so many sectors: foreign policy, defense, education, healthcare, and so on. So not everybody likes that. And I think that right before the next electoral campaigns, this may become something Law and Justice will work with, launching this big internal discussion, I guess, where how Polish do see themselves and their place in future European Union, if they do say yes to those changes or if they say no to these, and coming with that to next local and especially the elections to the European Parliament, taking this in a luggage, let's say, in the portfolio. Well, I'll stop at this and I pass the floor to the speaker. Okay, Anatoliy touched upon the foreign policy issues, the Polish-Ukrainian relations, and how Poland shall feel in European Union as its member, in European continent even. I can say that in this sense, just a small introduction before I pass the floor to Jakub. We have to realize that current improvement of Polish-Ukrainian relations, it won't be here today overnight. Those people who thought that after October 15th, everything's going to be over, well, it was a mistake, and obviously we'll have to wait till the same is shaped and established, when the government is changed. We have to wait till that moment. Jakub, please.
I agree. I agree absolutely. It's in general, this is very naive to believe that a day after the election anything changes in anything. So that refers also to Polish-Ukrainian relations. That's impossible that they will change just like that. They will be better or worse or anything. But in the last days, I have read a lot of Ukrainian media because I wanted to know what Ukrainians, what Ukrainian politicians, and what Ukrainian media think about the election in Poland. And I think that the main conclusion in Ukraine, in Ukrainian infosphere, was that no matter who rules in Poland, it will be okay for us, for Ukraine, with one exception. I mean, not possible right now, but there were some speculations before the election about a possible coalition of Prawo i Sprawiedliwość and Konfederacja. That would be not very good from Ukrainian point of view. But other options, I mean, Prawo i Sprawiedliwość wins the election and Prawo i Sprawiedliwość rules in Poland, or Koalicja Obywatelska wins election and rules in Poland, from Ukrainian perspective, are quite similar. I don't think that now anything dramatic will happen in Polish-Ukrainian relations. Of course, again, just like you said, just like Yevhen said, it will take time. It will take time. It's not going to, anything is not going to happen in a week, 2 weeks, in a month, etc. We have to be patient. It will take time. For example, we have to wait for a new foreign affairs minister in Poland. We don't know who's going to take this position. it is, well, we can speculate right now, but it is possible that, for example, it may be Pavel Koval. So if Pavel Koval becomes a new Minister of Foreign Affairs in Poland, I believe this is good news for Ukraine. So that would be good. But again, you mentioned, I think that Anatoliy mentioned about PSL, Polskie Stronnictwo Ludowe. PSL is, yeah, this is, in general, it represents agriculture. It represents farmers. Not precisely, but we can say so, that they represent farmers. Polish farmers are a very specific group, just like Pan Anatoliy said. There is a lot of farmers in Poland, but their contribution to Polish GDP is minimal. It's just a few percent. So it's a very specific group because they do not contribute to the Polish economy too much, but at the same time they are very influential. They are very influential, and we could see that. We could see that in the last months during this Polish-Ukrainian tensions over import-export of Ukrainian food, crop. We could see that. And I'm afraid that, or perhaps Ukrainians should be afraid, that, you know, PSL is a very opportunistic group. They always think about their interests. They always it always looked like this. They always think about how to follow the best gem in the best gem in the closet. So I think that this time it may look very similar, and this may be not good news for Ukraine. Because if Polish farmers will escalate this Polish-Ukrainian tension, this conflict over the crop, probably PSL will follow this mood, this atmosphere, these feelings, and I don't think it will be good from the perspective of Polish-Ukrainian relations. Also, I know that in Ukraine there are some concerns about the leader of Agrounia, this political group. I mean, Michał Kołodziejczak, who became a member of parliament and he is from Koalicja Obywatelska. I know that for many people in Ukraine, for many observers in Ukraine, it's strange a bit, because just you know, a few months ago he was very radical, and he protested against not only against Ukrainian crop, but his opinions were actually quite anti-Ukrainian. And now suddenly he's calm. He's a calm politician of Koalicja Obywatelska, and he doesn't protest. And I know that you have some concerns in Ukraine about this particular politician. But what I can say is that I don't think you have to be afraid of this particular politician, because I think that he got what he wanted. He got what he wanted. And now he is, well, how to say that gently? I think that this, now, it will be like, you know, Donald Tusk says something and Michał Kołodziejczak says the same thing. So I don't think you have to be afraid of Mr. Kołodziejczak. I think that PSL is more of a concern when it comes to Polish-Ukrainian relations, especially in the context of, you know, our competition in agriculture. That's it. When it comes to military cooperation, political cooperation, humanitarian cooperation, I do not predict any significant change in Poland's policy toward Ukraine. I don't think it's going to change significantly. But still, we have to wait for some time until, just like Yevhen said, until the new government is created, and then we will see. But I'm not pessimistic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Stanislav, please, how do you see Ukrainian-Polish relations and the Polish place in the European context? Thank you so much. Well, truly, Ukrainian issue was presented very intensely in this campaign, but for me personally, it started not with the grain issue, the grain problem. Half a year ago, I guess, in March, April, it emerged. It started for me like in November 2022 as one of the key events, you know, when Ukrainian issue came to the surface. I understood that Poland was preparing for elections. We remember the statements of representatives of Law and Justice that the missile that fell in Polish territory, and we had 2 Polish citizens who died. Then they blamed the missile, but they did not actually accuse Kyiv at that moment. But it was clear that Ukraine it was defending and still defending its territory. And it could have happened in theory, but we had to understand then. It actually meant that without Ukraine, this electoral campaign would not take place. Ukraine would be on the agenda. And some time passed, and they touched upon grain problem. It emerged, and then we had this outburst, let's say, outbreak of anti-Ukrainian narrative in Poland. And it was used by various political powers, like the Confederation, via these embedded movements like Oshukana and, you know, these boycotts and protests, and how they actually tried to do something at the border crossing points. They tried to cancel the Zelensky visit to Warsaw. So it was really clear that it would never be so easy and simple for Ukraine, I mean, this electoral campaign. When it comes to other players, namely Jakub mentioned Michal Kolychak. Well, I think it was a pre-electoral technology, pre-electoral move, let's say, to drag a share of the electoral pie, a piece of electoral pie in the context of, we speak of, you know, rural citizens, for the civic platform, for them to get some support. Maybe it worked, by the way. We can see that the level is higher comparing with the polls. Of course, I do agree that quite possibly that Polish economy is not impacted by this electorate, but they do have certain impact, of course. And everybody fights for the farmers and for their votes. That's what Anatoliy mentioned. There is a stratum, a category of society everybody is trying to drag as a blanket. Well, still, what the situation will be in future, how it will evolve. The colleagues mentioned that as well. It will be really complicated. In the context of Grain Initiative, we have to understand that it's not just the Polish Villages Party. There is a wish to stand for the interests of this category in the European arena, not just in Poland. So there will be negotiations, various concepts will be designed on how in future to give a chance for Ukrainian grain to be exported to foreign markets. Take into consideration that we still have the hostilities ongoing and those maritime routes that we actually, and of course the inland ones, that we try to use, still it's not enough. Not just those that we are testing, but the transit we have via Poland, it's more or less, you know, usual, it's more or less common. So maybe I think we'll try to negotiate, some attempts to negotiate, not to get some other conflicts with us. Speaking of the EU, a lot was mentioned, and Anatoliy mentioned that this is an important thing, how Poland shall act in that matter. We can forecast that Poland may now try, especially if Donald Tusk will lead the process. They will try to improve the relations between Brussels and Warsaw. In his electoral program, he mentioned that as well, that he would love to deblock the funds from the European accounts that were blocked when Law and Justice governed the country, because of those problematic issues and the judicial reform, namely. There may be an improvement. For us, this is really important. For Poland, not to create obstructions for our EU integration. We can see those risks, of course, especially within the last weeks. We have to recognize that as well. Speaking of the Ukraine support, I don't think that it will radically change when it comes to any kind of assistance or support. Poland will remain our donor and our hub to support Ukraine, the military support, I mean military assistance, any other type. And of course, Ukrainian refugees will be hosted as well. But by the way, in my opinion, this historical policy may become a secondary issue, because the civic platform and other parties who may join it do not stress so much on that, like the Law and Justice is doing, or the Confederation. It's a plus for us, it's a benefit, but still, peace made it a little bit difficult for us. In the legislation, that would be interesting, like all these anniversaries, how the new government from these parties, what statements they will give. This is an intrigue, we will see. But okay, let's not try to run before the train. Okay, so I do think that we'll keep the relations as they are. Maybe certain improvement will be there, some thawing, but we'll see. There will be so many challenges for Ukraine and Poland both, we have to understand it. The key work will be focused on how to find some constructive moves in our bilateral relations, and how for us to cooperate with the EU and its institutions. Okay, Anatoly, in my opinion, if we touch upon the grain issue, Ukrainian grain, this will be one of the markers and indicators. How shall they build the Polish policy and the Polish-Ukrainian relations? Because this issue we mostly associate with law and justice here in Ukraine. At the same time, in Polish political system, there are no discussions for Ukrainian grain. To keep the moratorium for import of grain, it was supported mostly by everyone, all the political parties. Maybe it wasn't stressed that much, because in mid-August, I asked myself, like, the civic platform, what are they saying about this? And in the end of August, beginning of September, there was a statement given by Donald Tusk and Shlynchak, who expressed it, they wanted to keep the embargo and extend the embargo in 20 various, you know, items like beetroots and carrots, not just the grain they mentioned. And now, if these people shape the government, a good question is there, okay, if we have the Christmas period, we have new government, and a program is there like January 1st, 2024. Will the decision be made which will fully comply with the European Commission opinion on deblocking the import of grain or not. And the same thing for many other issues. It's still an open question. When it comes to my role today is to be a cautious optimist, okay, but I am trying to ask some practical questions how it may look in future. When it comes to improvement of relations with the EU, and how will it impact the Ukrainian integration aspirations and so on? Let us remind ourselves, the dispute that we still have between Poland and the EU. Tomorrow, by the way, October 19th, tomorrow, it's the second anniversary when there was a discussion in European Parliament, and Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki gave a statement. The discussion was related to the decision of Polish Constitutional Tribunal, Constitutional Court, on the Polish law prevailing over European law. So hot debates were taking place then. As I remember, Morawiecki was giving a statement, giving examples, his justifications were there, and one of the messages was that eventually it's not just about Polish law and Polish judicial reform, but certain European solidarity. Morawiecki stressed on the following, saying that this is okay, but Germany is finalizing the Nord Stream 2 process, yeah? This pipeline is threatening the security of Ukraine, Poland, Baltic states. It's a threat. So why don't we speak of solidarity, of European solidarity with this example? Like, that's what he said. So then it was hanging in the air and it just stayed there, didn't move further. For a couple of days later, the head of the Christian Democratic Union simply said that we need to finalize it with the Nord Stream 2. It's not even about trade, she said, but it's that we have to become climate neutral, and that's why we need that infrastructure. Okay, so we can see that not every decision made at the level of Berlin or, let's say, Brussels, that it fully complies with the Ukrainian interest. I'm speaking of Ukraine right now, okay? So we saw a very active position of Poland after the full-scale invasion started. So not expecting any decisions from the Brussels or other capitals. Polish were engaged intensely. They provide a lot of assistance to us. Will it be positive in future if European bureaucracy, it still exists? I'm not giving any negative connotations, but European structure, European system, it doesn't work instantly. It's an open question. The historic memory, well, I usually take it from two sides. Some negative moments there are where we cannot reach the consensus. And it's not just about historians, because we need to have a broader civic dialogue. But we also have some positive moments for Polish historic memory. I remember the words of current director of Polish Institute, Robert Czyżewski. He once said that Polish do not need to privatize of the Rzeczpospolita history, the first one. And he said, I encourage Ukrainian to analyze that history, and if they think it's their history, then you can just take it closer, let's say. this Polish civic revival, let's say, and this support in the first days, you know, I may be mistaken, but they took something from that historical policy, because Polish, they reminded us that once we lived in one country, it was a big one, a powerful one, a democratic one, as of that moment in Europe, and that these certain historic and family relations, that these are the ties. Okay, thank you. Before asking another question, I will allow myself to express my idea. Like, what relations shall we have with Poland? Well, I think that Ukraine has to refuse from being reactive and must be proactive. There's no other choice, basically, because Russian-Ukrainian war will push us later to more active actions in the international arena, and Poland, considering all the factors, is the country with which we can establish this dialogue, relevant dialogue. So, I think that Ukraine has to offer a concept of a new concept, using the concept that we had 100 years ago, but with new geopolitical reality, okay? By specific steps, with specific steps to be made in Baltic, Black Sea region, by pushing the Russia and establishing new Ukrainian-Polish relations in this context. So, this should combine with the following, that Ukraine in this situation, we need to give our hand to Visegrad 4 countries and at least initiate some negotiations, because just expecting that in Bratislava and maybe in Warsaw some unpleasant statements, unpleasant for us, will be there. It means that our diplomacy is just immature if we expect this to happen. So, the question I have, because we still have time, it's a simple question. You can say yes or no. So, will Yaroslav Kaczynski retire? Jakub, will Yaroslav Kaczynski retire?
But definitely not now. Definitely not now, because the result of this election is to some extent a personal failure of Yaroslav Kaczynski. Because to some extent this election was, you know, a competition, a personal competition between Yaroslav Kaczynski and Donald Tusk. And you know, to be honest, perhaps not everyone in Ukraine realizes this, but this competition between these two politicians, Kaczynski and Tusk, it's not just a political rivalry. It's not just a political competition. They have a long history, a long record of this personal conflict, mutual grudges, and actually it lasts for decades. So it is, well, by the way, this is also a very specific feature of Polish politics, this personal conflict between Kaczynski and Tusk. So I don't think he's going to retire right now, because I believe that he believes that he still has something to do.
Дякую.
Thank you, Stanislav. Honestly, when I was telling today that Yaroslav Kaczynski took all this burden of loss on himself, personally, regarding these elections, I had this actually opinion. I thought he may even retire, may leave the political environment, but we just have to realize that this is still like an old school politician of the Republic of Poland. He's a very experienced person, well known. He likes to play in the couloirs, as we say, and so many trends. He was establishing negative and positive in Poland. Let's just recognize this. And it was a struggle, of course, that we've seen between Tusk and Kaczynski. These were the elections. It won't just vanish, you know, that struggle. And they have very painful spots and many aces in the sleeves. They don't like each other, of course, and he will now observe how this new hypothetical government will handle the tasks. And so many times we mentioned that today, that the coalition which may be established now will not be a monolithic, you know, one. These are different parties. These will be different politicians, different ambitions. So there's a big and high possibility that this government may not last long. And I think, okay, considering that we will have many electoral campaigns in future, there'll be an attempt to present candidates for Polish presidency, already aiming at the next elections. I think Jarosław Kaczynski will stay in the political life of the country. He is he's analyzing those problematic issues that were there. That's why law and justice becomes more dangerous for the new government, because it will not be the law and justice that we had before October 15th, okay? It will be a new one. So I do not foresee his retirement. I think this politician will show his teeth in Polish political environment, definitely. Thank you. In this context, I will allow to note that as President Duda will still be there in his position, I guess we will witness some strengthening of the presidential autonomy. I mean, Duda's autonomy. Because during the next elections, he will not present his candidacy there. His second term, I mean. And peace, if peace goes to opposition. At the same time, Duda has a veto right. If I'm not mistaken, it may be cancelled by 3/5 of the votes. But the current opposition, maybe the next government with these three political powers, it will not get those votes, even if we fantasize that Confederation joins fully. Still, they can't beat the presidential veto with these votes. Not enough. And by the way, the strengthening of European integration and amendments in the European law, the acceptation of it in the Polish parliament, may face this problem, may stumble upon it. At the same time, President Duda have a chance to step out of this image created around him. I don't think he is completely controlled by Kaczynski, but this idea is floating around. I've seen a couple of examples when President Duda was against the opinion of Kaczynski, the Institute of National Memory, and so on. He has now actual chance, and he has his hands untied to actually present himself as an autonomous political figure, show his power for his political future, maybe in some international institutions, who knows. And just to finish, one thing I want to mention, in geopolitical context, we still have these issues. These are quite not accentuated, but I do hope we'll get some answers or certain visions for it. What will be the new opinion of Poland and its new attitude to military and political union with Ukraine? Because the military union, primarily. It's for the core of the new security architecture in our part of Europe, Polish-Ukrainian. Other countries to join, it was debated. Will it become like the last unit in the agenda, or will we just keep this NATO discussion only and we will this will remain? So the second thing, the Trimarium, the project where Poland was for a long time presenting itself as a flagship. Without Poland, we cannot think of Trimarium, concept. Many were accusing Law and Justice in using this against the European Union as a sort of alternative for EU. It's interesting to see what's going to happen with this project. If it dies, maybe, or it gets like a revival. And this will be really important also for Ukraine as well. And we will see how the Lublin triangle will develop. This was the project of the Law and Justice, mostly, from the Polish side. And what will be its destiny? Maybe we will create some new unions on its basis, but what will be the vision of all these new political parties and forces? We will see so many interesting events. Thank you so much. Maybe someone has any questions just for the end of the discussion. So, Mr. Jakub,
niektóre szczegóły. Pan przypuszcza, że może być koalicja pomiędzy PiS-em a Konfederacją jako opcja, nie? To
Nie.
źle zrozumiałam. Bardzo dobrze, że...
Nie, absolutnie nie.
Tak, dobrze. Jaka koalicja jest najlepszą opcją dla Ukrainy? Może pan o tym wspominał? Ja po prostu nie wszystko zrozumiałam z pana odpowiedzi po angielsku. Dziękuję bardzo.
Ja nie mogę wypowiadać się za stronę ukraińską, natomiast z tego, co ja słyszę i czytam w ukraińskich mediach, co słyszę od ukraińskich polityków, ale też od ludzi zwykłych, to szczerze powiedziawszy wychodzi na to, że jedyną opcją, która dla Ukrainy byłaby zła, to jest opcja koalicji PiS-u z Konfederacją. Natomiast jeżeli miałby rządzić PiS, tak jak do tej pory, lub będzie rządzić opozycja obecna, to z punktu widzenia Ukrainy to niewiele zmienia. Bo to nie wpłynie w sposób zasadniczy na relacje polsko-ukraińskie.
Dziękuję bardzo.
By the way, just one remark. Before the elections, Peace and Confederation voters were against that political union. So for these two powers to become parts of one bloc. Olena Kotseruba, I have a question. So in September, as I look, Andrzej Duda, Polish president, again took the first position in the Polish trust rating, 5% up. He has the highest rating, considering the data I'm actually looking at, since 2021. Does it mean that Law and Justice will have a chance for payoff for this loss, let's say? And will it lead to a political crisis quite soon? As it was mentioned already, Andrzej Duda, it's his second term, so in fact, he can't show something new when it comes to the state management issue. He can't present some new ideas. But if he continues to embed himself to Law and Justice without any autonomy, political autonomy, if he doesn't start developing his autonomous political career, this may give some scores to peace, but It depends on peace. How shall they act if in opposition? We will see. Whom will they promote and push for future elections? Because we have to understand that many possible candidates are there, but they may not meet the expectations. Mateusz Morawiecki, some ideas I have, like Mariusz Blaszczak, the Minister of Defense, but certain problems have been there lately with these politicians. So, if there is some proper candidate, and this candidate is will work fine for Polish voters and supported by Polish voters, this may give a new push for law and justice. And law and justice later may shoot again. But we will observe, of course. It's not about the personalities, it's more about political forces that we speak about. But they set the tone? Yeah, they do. So we will observe. Anything's possible, basically. Thank you. Thank you so much, colleagues. Truly a very interesting discussion, as it seems to me. Very substantial, very professional. So we can say just simply that it's only the start. And maybe we'll have another meeting, like in more or less the same composition, to continue our discussion. Thank you so much. Jakub, thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.